Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danesha and today we will be prepping for the VikiSews Roxanne dress sew-along. I will be doing a live sew-along with my homegirl LaShawn on January 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're seeing this video after January 12th, that sew-along is saved on my channel, so come sew along with me. First, let's get into everything you'll need for this sew-along. You will, of course, need your VikiSew pattern. I printed out the PDF letter size version of the pattern and taped it together. If you are not familiar with how to put together a PDF pattern, I want you to pause right here and go check out my video all about PDF patterns and how to put them together, and then come back. All right, let's keep going. So once you have your pattern pieces cut out, put that to the side. You will of course need your fabric. I am using a rib knit from Joann Fabric. This particular fabric has 4-way stretch, which I think is really good for this project. If you need more information on fabric choices, check out the information that comes with the purchase of the PDF pattern. It will tell you more to make sure you choose the right fabric for this project. You will also need marking tools, because there is going to be a few markings that we'll need for our hems, and it's just super helpful if you can mark them out without guessing when you go to the sewing machine. Unless you're really good at eyeballing 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, and all that stuff, then, you know, do you boo. But me, I'm gonna use my marking pens. I will link all the things below that are available for you all. These were purchased from Amazon. You're going to need 1/4 inch clear elastic. This will be used in the shoulder seam allowance. It's gonna help with the integrity of that seam over time, so you don't wanna skip this step. Now I will say on my last two, I did not have clear elastic. I only had white 1/4 inch elastic, and I still used it because I know that it's necessary for that seam, but the clear will be a much better choice for this project. You're also going to need sewing needles, of course. I also got a pack of stretch and jersey needles. I will use the stretch needle on my sewing machine to show you guys how you can achieve the same look if you're using a zigzag stitch on a sewing machine. So if you don't have a serger, you can still make this project. Now, if you do have a serger, and that's what you'll be using for this project, then you will need 4 cones of either coordinating thread or contrasting thread, whatever you've decided. Okay, I wanted more of a monochromatic look, so I'm using burgundy thread, even though the fabric is like a light wash burgundy. It's gonna go nicely. And if you're using a sewing machine, then of course you need coordinating thread for that as well. I am gonna probably use this one for my sewing machine because I will do my hems for the sleeves and the bottom of the dress on my sewing machine, okay? Now to cut my project, I typically go with a rotary cutter if it's like a thinner fabric, and if I'm cutting something thicker, I will go with my electric scissors, but I also like to have my scissors on hand to cut my notches. I am just gonna cut one of the smaller pieces on camera to kind of show you guys how I cut and how I do my markings, but I won't cut everything in this video. For my pattern weights, I like to use washers. You can find these at your local Home Depot or Lowe's, and of course I have an Amazon link for you guys. They're very cost effective and they get the job done, so these have been my pattern weights since I began sewing, honestly. So I've had these for almost 10 years. I prefer clips when sewing, so I have my clips on hand. However, I do always keep my pins nearby because sometimes at certain points, depending on what you're making, a pin is a better option for that step. So whatever you prefer, make sure you have those handy. And last but not least, for measuring out our hems for our sleeves and the bottom of our dress, you're going to want to either have a ruler on hand or a seam gauge. I will show you guys how I utilize my clear ruler. Let me emphasize on clear ruler because clear will be the best option for this. One of these things, okay. So either one, make sure you have it on deck, okay? So let's get into it. Okay, so before I show you how I cut, I do want to say that I always cut one piece at a time. First, I lay out my fabric, I play a little Tetris, make sure all the pieces fit, and I cut in a single layer. However, if you have plenty of fabric, you know you're not gonna run out, you can cut with your fabric folded in half and cut the pieces that need two at once. So you are gonna need two back pieces, so you can cut that at once if you're cutting on the fold. But if you're cutting like me, you're gonna cut each individual, okay? So you're going to need two back pieces, two pieces for your front sleeve, and two pieces for the back sleeve. And then for the rest of the dress, you will only cut one, all right? So this is your left front. That'll be on this side. You cut one for your left front, one for your right front. And then this is the bottom of the front, and you will cut one for the bottom front, okay? That's all, that's it. Very simple. You will have a total of 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces. 9 pieces total for this garment. All right, so I am gonna demonstrate how I cut one piece and how I cut my notches and how I mark any markings that need to be transferred to the fabric. And then you'll kind of follow that through for the rest of your pieces and prep your garment for our sew along. And lastly, I will end the video with a brief demonstration on how you can use your sewing machine to achieve the same look if you do not have a serger. Okay, how you can use a zigzag stitch and still make this dress. Let's get to it. All right, so I am cutting the back sleeve. Again, you need two. You need two of these. I'm gonna cut one and show you guys how I transfer my notches and how I mark out the hem allowance, okay? So I'm gonna use my handy dandy washer weights. If you do want some cuter pattern weights, Maureen on Instagram, she sells these really cute handmade pattern weights. I'll link y'all, don't worry. All right, I'm gonna use my rotary cutter. I love how easy it is to get in around the curves. If you have tighter curves, you can get a smaller rotary cutter with a smaller blade. But this one does just fine for this. All right. Slowly separate, make sure I got all right, perfect. So there we have our first back sleeve all cut out. For my notches, I like to use my Ganger scissors. And I am just going to kind of pivot this to make it easier. So I know the seam allowance, this is the seam allowance, okay? All this extra space at the second line, and this is the main, like where the garment will be sewn. So with my seam allowance, I don't want to cut all the way through to where I know the garment will be sewn. So I'm gonna make these very small snips. That's a double. Kind of slit this off, so reposition. And one more right there. There is also a marking right here. And that's it. That's it for the notches. Now, okay, for the hem, I already know, because this is my third Roxanne dress, that I'm going to have to come back and mark out the hem, okay? I have to mark the hem out from here right around to here, okay? So, I know that it's 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. This is where my clear ruler comes in play. The directions say to measure out double your seam allowance and mark it onto the fabric. Well, 3/8 of an inch times 2 is 6/8 of an inch, which is 3/4 of an inch. Before I take this pattern piece off, I am also going to transfer my dot. I forgot to mention that I like to use Crayola markers for transferring of those types of markings, okay? Like dots. So, I'm gonna stick the pin right where that's at so I know where I'm going. Let's see, boom. Flip it up and make a dot. Easy peasy. I have my dot marking so I know that I'm going from here around 3/4 of an inch. To take my ruler, and I'm gonna use my white water-soluble marking pencil from Amazon. And this is 3/4 of an inch, or you can use whatever side. So I'm going 3/4 of an inch, placing it and marking. All right, and then kind of just work your way around the garment. Okay, so the marking is transferring. It's really light, which I like, and it will come off with water. And I'm just gonna work my way all the way around. Again, I'm going 3/4 of an inch. This will help just for preparation for sewing, that you won't have to stop and do this marking while sewing. So that's why I'm showing you guys how to do it now. And that is it for the markings. I'm gonna take you guys over to the sewing machine and show you how you can use a zigzag stitch to accomplish the same look on the Roxanne dress that you would get with a serger. The VikiSews Roxanne pattern recommends using a stitch width that is between 2 to 3 millimeters and a length that is 2.5 millimeters. So that's what I have my machine set to, zigzag stitch. So I have cut some pieces out of my scrap fabric. This is the front right and left. And I'm gonna start. Remember, again, this whole project will be serged or sewn on the right sides so that you have exposed seams. And again, we're sewing on the edge of our fabric. All right, just making sure I can see. Using my clips. Keeping it towards the edge of the fabric. You can kind of see what it's looking like so far. Here we have our exposed zigzag stitch. I'm just going to continue all the way to the end. Here's an even closer look at the zigzag stitch. Keeping it towards the edge. Just gonna go ahead and take these off. All right, so we have our zigzag stitch, and I'm just gonna scoot the machine back so I can show you guys what our finished front right and left look like. Now that they're together, you're still gonna do the same steps of pressing your seams to one side, but there you have it. It will just look like this. On the sides, you'll have a zigzag stitch instead. All right, guys, so that is all for our prep for the VikiSews Roxanne dress. Thank you for joining me. We will be live once again Friday, January 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're seeing this video after that date, that video is saved to my channel and you can still come and sew along with us. Until next time, be sure to subscribe, like, and drop me a comment if you enjoyed this video. And if you made the Roxanne dress, I would love to see your version of it.